Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. And then the other item that I wanted to talk about was are these new AI generated review summaries. So Newegg did this a week ago, roughly. Some of their reviews, Newegg is a mostly electronics, though not exclusively, e-commerce site or software and electronics, I believe. I never use it, but some of their reviews have a kind of a capsule review summary with some. I think there are some other filters. I'm not looking at it right now, and this is an AI generated thing based on the underlying consumer reviews. And the idea is it's going to make uh, shopping more efficient, and presumably they think it will help people. It will expedite purchases because people will get the information they need from the review summary without having to read a bunch of underlying reviews. And then the score distribution, they have a kind of a chart that visually represents where the ratings are. That's still available. So they show the rating and then this review summary, which kind of eliminates the need hypothetically to read any individual review. And Amazon has done something quite similar, although Amazon's version is a bit more elaborate with a bunch of filters or topics, as Google calls them, where you can click that and then you will go to particular reviews that talk about the usability or something, or the battery life, or whatever the characteristic is of the product. But the idea, again, here is to use AI to summarize a bunch of review content and make it faster for consumers to get the sense of how other people like the product, and expedite purchase behavior, I think.
I mean, Google has been doing this to some extent with their review summary snippets. They've had three snippets that, from their point of view, while they're extracted from specific reviews, reflect the broader experience of users because those comments are either repeated or similar to. So you'll frequently see a positive, a negative, and a positive comment in those summaries. So the summaries or review snippets, I guess, functions similarly, although it might not
It's
have
not as
this.
comprehensive. It doesn't
Right.
see these read like an individual consumer review. They've created a coherent paragraph of text or so that looks like, an individual has written it. It's familiar to people. The thing that Google is doing is more disjointed and less, inspires less confidence. Let's just say, it's just a sort of a sampling of a portion of a review.
And it's also buried to the point where it's not always easily surfaced in a typical search. Unlike review stars, which we know from our research are very compelling to users, very attractive to users, drive user behavior, these summaries are not as visible.
Well, so what's interesting in the kind of our initial projects have revealed that people, and we talked about this internally, people are not reading reviews.
Right.
Our user testing is showing that the paradox is that reviews are the number one factor that people rely upon in making a choice for a business, far and away. And other things are contributing, but they look at reviews primarily, but they're not reading them. They're looking at the aggregate star ratings. There's a kind of higher spectrum of people. Most people don't read them. Some people sort of spot check, and some people really read them thoroughly. But those are tiny minorities. And what I believe, based on that exposure to the user data that we've collected, is that there's going to be more adoption of these AI review summaries across the internet. I think Google will introduce something like that. I think other sites that host reviews, that have reviews, are gonna summarize them because they see it as a consumer benefit, and there will probably be some data that show there's engagement and there is some lift, some purchase lift from these things. But to what extent does this obscure fake reviews, for example? That's an interesting thing to consider. Um, I mean, fake reviews start to matter when they push up the star review or push down the star review aggregate score, or maybe in some cases where they're very prominent and the text can influence people. But it's mostly at this sort of star rating level.
Right. Because people will, I mean, one of the things we saw in our user behavior is below a certain threshold, depending on the industry and the category, people will just reject those from consideration. So, well, in that case, they'll limit the cohort with a search like best category I'm looking for near me, and thus create a cohort that's only whatever 4.5 and higher for consideration. So, and the numbers we saw recently in medical was 4.8 was sort of the cutoff point for consideration. It was very
Yeah,
high.
which is just insane. But
Right.
I mean, it's a very sensitive category where people want better quality, so it makes a
Right.
certain amount of there's logic to it. But the
Yeah,
pressure,
that'd be interesting. We're
once.
getting to a point, Greg, you've mentioned this in the past, though, where we're deciding between businesses that are 4.5 and businesses that are 5.0. Maybe the rating scale should be on a logarithmic basis so it spreads out a little bit more.
Well, they'll have to do when things get to a point where the consideration set is, 4.7 to 5, and you don't want to see, and 5 is disqualified in some cases because it's suspicious. So you're really talking about like 4.6, 4.7 to 4.9. Then, then the reviews become problematic because they're undifferentiated. But that's a different discussion. Um, so anyway, I think we've come to the end of our time today. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to add, Mike Blumenthal?
No, no finality from me. It's an life is an open-ended question, and all these topics will remain the
Well,
same.
all these things are very, very interesting. I mean, the sort of influence of AI, the impact of AI on these products that we've lived with for 20 years and more is really fascinating. It'd be interesting to see where it goes. And of course, we'll be here every week to rant and rave about these things. And David Mimmel will be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Tell your friends. Subscribe to Near Media, and we will see you next time for episode 125.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.